Where do you begin?
The 1950s, America's golden age, an era of prosperity. It's no wonder so many people want to go back to it. What with the communist witch hunts, institutionalized racism,
Chinese mother, bling baby, jello.
rampant sexism,
There were many times she was glad that her college training had prepared her so well for home life.
and the crippling terror of all-out nuclear war. In his novel Lullaby, Chuck Palahniuk posited that every generation wants to be the last. And thanks to the fine people of the greatest generation, that became not only a possibility, but in the minds of many, a certainty. As the Cold War slammed into high gear over the next few decades, Hollywood attempted, to varying degrees of success, to illuminate and/or alleviate the fear of this fresh technological nightmare. These films would fall into two distinct categories. The first would dramatize the events leading up to Armageddon, and the efforts by military and government officials to stave off such an incident, seen here in films like Failsafe, War Games, and no doubt the best of the lot, Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. The second category was all about the aftermath, which itself would split into two diverse types: realistic, as seen in The Day After or Threads, and fantasy, best exemplified by The Terminator and The Road Warrior. While successful at their intent, few if any of the films managed to capture the levels of personal paranoia and creeping menace that the nuclear threat managed to inflict on everyday life. For that, filmgoers had to wait till nearly the end of the Cold War. The year was 1988, and the film was the most nihilistic and simultaneously optimistic of the genre, Miracle Mile. But before we begin, I'm going to use NATO's DEFCON clock to illustrate the level of spoiler alerts ahead. We are officially at DEFCON 4. The film stars Anthony Edwards, fresh from his success as Goose in Top Gun, as Harry Washello, and Mare Winningham, seen here in an ABC after-school special that coincidentally stars Edwards' Top Gun co-star Val Kilmer, as Julie Peters. Boy, what can you say about that hair? Eesh. The film's plot is a deceptively simple what-if scenario. What if, late one night, you were to pick up the phone and receive this phone call?
It's happening. I can't believe it, but we're locked into it. 50 minutes and counting. It's for real, Dad. It's no drill. We shoot our wad in 50 minutes. They're gonna pick us up in 5 or 10, and you can get it back in an hour.
The call ends with the sound of gunfire and an authoritarian voice who exhorts Harry.
Forget everything you just heard and go back to sleep.
The scenario is simple, but one's reaction would be anything but. Is the call genuine? Should you warn others if it is? How safe can you make yourself in the 2 hours before the devastation begins? How many of your loved ones could you collect in that time? And if the call was fake, you'll run the risk of becoming the atomic age Chicken Little, yelling to any and all who listen that the sky is falling. So what would you do? For Harry, the one thing he's definitely not going to be doing is going back to sleep. The actual Miracle Mile is a stretch of the Wilshire Corridor in Los Angeles. It was developed in the 20s and 30s by A.W. Ross, who made the prescient decision to design the area to be seen while driving rather than walking. This came to be known as the linear downtown model, and would be adopted by virtually every major metropolitan city worldwide. The street itself is lined with shops, restaurants, museums, and most importantly for the sake of this film, the Brea Tar Pits. The tar pits are a naturally occurring phenomenon with tar, technically asphalt, bubbling up from the earth. They've been at it for tens of thousands of years, and during that time have snared an untold number of animals, not to mention everything from plants to insects to grains of pollen. The boiling asphalt preserves these specimens, with the oldest fossils dating back some 38,000 years. The tar pits are the location that begin and end Miracle Mile. Harry, a trombone player with a traveling big band combo, is in town for a gig and killing time. There, he meets local girl Julie, and the attraction is instant and mutual. They spend a near-perfect day together, culminating in a concert at the old Pan Pacific Auditorium. If you listen close, you can hear Olivia Newton-John. Julie attends with her grandfather, who's been estranged from his wife for 15 years. Hey look, future Battleship director Peter Berg. Exactly, Harry. And they make plans to continue their date when Julie finishes her waitressing shift at midnight. But a freak accident knocks out his building's power and alarm clock, and Harry oversleeps. Arriving 3 hours late, Julie is long gone, leaving Harry to deal with a collection of late-night LA oddballs played by some of the best character actors of all time. There's Olan Jones, who's played so many waitresses in her career that I think we, as a nation, owe her a collective tip. RoboCop's boss Robert Doquey, Danny De La Paz, a couple of street sweepers played by Claude Earl Jones and SAG President Alan Rosenberg, Enterprise Security Chief Tasha Yar, Denise Crosby, Diane Delano, the once and future Mountain Walter,
Mountain Girl,
and Earl Bowen. You might remember him as Dr. Silberman in the first 3 Terminator films, and if you liked actors from that series, you're in luck. Here's Jeanette Goldstein, and the always awesome Brian Thompson.
Wash day tomorrow. Nothing clean, right?
My love of voice actors commands me to mention the sheer magnitude of work done by Earl Bowen over the last 2 decades. And while we're on the subject of voice actors, the voice of Chip, the mysterious payphone caller, is Raphael Sbarge. He appears as Jiminy Cricket's human proxy Archie Hopper on Once Upon a Time. Have to take a moment to mention the film's soundtrack by the electronic masterminds of Tangerine Dream. Founded in 1967, the band has had over 24 different members at one time or another, the constant being the band's founder, Edgar Fruge. As surely as John Williams defined film music during the 1970s, so too did Tangerine Dream during the 80s. While many film composers turned to synthesizers out of budgeting necessity during this period, who needs to pay an orchestra when you can do the whole thing on a Prophet 5? Tangerine Dream began life as a synth-driven collective and brought it to a dizzying kind of perfection, scoring a wide range of films of every genre and always delivering a unique, propulsive, and modern sound. Their work on Miracle Mile resulted in one of the best soundtracks ever recorded. Whether or not the call is authentic, it's enough to spook the diner's denizens into a hasty trip to LAX, where a plane has been chartered to fly them to the southern hemisphere. Harry remains behind, with the promise that if he can make it to the top of the Mutual Benefit Life Building, a helicopter will be ready to transport him and several others to the airport. At this point, the film becomes virtually real-time, as Harry navigates the empty landscape of early morning Los Angeles in an attempt to reunite with Julie and whisk her away from danger. This proves easier said than done, however, forcing Harry to enlist the help of Wilson, a car stereo thief played by Michael T. Williamson, whom you'll no doubt recognize, or not, as Bubba, the shrimp-loving Vietnam pal of Forrest Gump. It's kinda weird that he played Bubba and a character named Wilson. With the clock ticking relentlessly on, they run up against overzealous cops and armed citizens, played here by Mr. Blue novelist Eddie Bunker, before Harry finally reconnects with Julie. They arrive to find the helicopter as promised, but because this is that kind of night, there are other passengers, but no pilot. Though released just prior to the Soviet collapse, Miracle Mile had been written a decade earlier by this man, Steve DeJarnett. The script was immediately optioned by Warner Brothers, who balked at the idea of entrusting a neophyte filmmaker with directing. With DeJarnett unwilling to change the script, it sat unproduced for years, at one point almost becoming the Twilight Zone movie. It eventually landed on the first ever Best Unproduced Screenplay list, currently known as the Blacklist. DeJarnett made an unprecedented move. He took his salary for writing the first draft of Strange Brew, and used it to buy back his screenplay. His rewrite garnered even more interest, and DeJarnett turned down an offer of nearly $500,000 to sell it outright, convinced he was the best filmmaker to tell the story. With the deadline fast approaching, Harry returns to street level in hopes of finding a pilot. He happens upon one of the only 24-hour businesses in the area, a fitness center, and as luck would have it, a pilot. And not a moment too soon, because his fears that the call could be a prank are unfounded. The world has awakened to a living nightmare. But mercifully, the helicopter is ready, and Harry and Julie escape just in the nick of time. Except they don't. They're too late, like it's too late for everyone. The devastation arrives and the world is doomed. The electromagnetic pulse knocks out the helicopter's controls, dumping them back where we began, the Brea Tar Pits. With the world on fire, they sink slowly beneath the water and tar to become the very fossils they were admiring when they found each other. It's a horrifying ending. Brutal, frustrating, heartbreaking. But also beautiful and amazing and hopeful. Nothing is permanent. Life is a mad scramble full of missed opportunity, bad luck, misfortune, and dread. But it's all worthwhile when you find someone to love and be loved by. It manages to put all the goddamn troubles of the world in perspective, and maybe the only true permanence we're apt to find. Harry and Julie die, but everyone on the planet will, with or without the nuclear annihilation. But they do it together, and the proof of it will survive thousands of years. You can't do much better than that.